I recently visited Dachau, Germany, which is home to the first concentration camp during the Holocaust. I did this to grasp a better understanding of the history I've been so well versed in throughout my life. As a supporter of the Jewish community, my grandmother, Constance Hart, made it clear to me that their suffering and the suffering of others needs to be kept alive in order to unite the living for the defense of the peace and freedom and in respect for their fellow men. As I walked along the path of the train tracks that carried the prisoners to the front of the gate of the camp, I could feel their cries of helplessness. I could already feel their worlds turning upside down. And as I saw the front entrance crafted by prisoners who specialized in metalwork, my heart sank. I thought to myself, these could have been my last steps. These could have been my last steps of freedom. The further I walked, the more real everything I have learned became. When I finally arrived at the gate, it read, "Arbeit macht frei," or "work makes you free." These were the last words many would see before being sent to their unknowing demise. On March 22nd of 1933, days after Adolf Hitler was appointed Reich Chancellor, a concentration camp for political prisoners was opened on the grounds of an unused munitions factory. When prisoners first arrived, they were brutally and deviously mistreated. And this was in order to break their personality and their will. Camp leader Joseph Jerome addressed prisoners when they arrived by saying, and I quote, "You have no rights, no honor, and no protection. You are a pile of shit and you will be treated as such." The first prisoners who arrived at Dachau were German communists and social democrats. Many of them did not survive the initial welcome of 25 or more oxtail whips. Hugo Burkhardt, a Jewish prisoner, depicts the welcome he received upon his arrival at the camp. He says, and I quote, "They dragged me to a wooden trestle, strapped my hands and feet together, and tore the clothes off of my back. Then beat me continuously with a club and a so-called ox whip. It was probably the most intense pain that a fully conscious person could bear, and I'll never forget it for the rest of my life." On April 11th of 1933, the SS took over command of the Dachau concentration camp. They relieved the regional police. Their reign of terror over the camp began immediately. The terror unleashed by the SS or on individual prisoners completely dominated the everyday life and daily routine. The daily routine went as followed: an 11-hour workday, which consisted of work that often served the purpose of humiliating and tormenting the prisoners by making them perform senseless activities. Prisoners continued to work in harsh conditions throughout Hitler's reign. Many prisoners refused and were therefore subjected to the cruel punishments the SS had in mind. According to a statement by Emily Mall, a former capo at the crematorium at Dachau, she said, and I quote, "Mentally ill persons were regularly killed by injection in the Dachau concentration camp until the war ended. The euthanasia program, codenamed 14F13, murdered prisoners whom the SS deemed unfit for work. Those people were left to die or were deported to the extermination camps. Between September 25th and October 31st of 1944, 1 year before the liberation, 2,137 Jewish prisoners no longer able to work were sent to the gas chambers at Auschwitz. In addition to the mass murders, Dachau was known for performing medical experiments on humans. According to an interim report by Professor Ernest Robert Grawitsch, an SS Reach doctor, he said, overall, biochemical supplements were conducted on 90 prisoners. These included 40 clergy, 6 Jewish, and 10 criminal prisoners. 29 prisoners died in immense agony. During the last months before the liberation, the SS began to evacuate the first concentration camps as the advancing front approached. The roads were lined with the corpses of the prisoners. Thousands of prisoners ill or unable to walk were murdered prior to the evacuation. According to a report from the Czech railway station, the prisoners called out for water, and an SS man shot into the rail car. And with a wooden club, the capo beat them until they were dead. The bodies remained, and when discovered, were found in an advanced state of decomposition. As you can see, and what I saw firsthand, the suffering of Nazi prisoners is unlike anything you and I have experienced in our lifetime. When the Dachau concentration camp opened in 1933, it was the beginning of an end. Prisoners were tortured, mocked, and began to forget who they were. The mass murders, experiments, and living conditions will forever be remembered. In order to keep their history and suffering alive, we must continue to stress the importance of freedom and peace for all.